Hey guys, it's Tan here, and welcome to my personal opinion. It's going to be a completely different deal what I've ever done before. This is a review type video series that I plan on doing, and today we're going to be talking about Windblown, a game that I was extremely excited about. One of my favorite genres there is roguelites, and this one happens to be 3-player co-op, which is super exciting. A game I've been looking out for months now, and haven't stopped looking to when it released until recently. And let me tell you, this game really did deliver on my expectations when it came to a 3-player roguelike, but also had some issues with it too. So anyway, let's get into it. Like I've already described, Windblown's a roguelike, also co-op. And it's also made by the people who made Dead Cells, which is super exciting. They by far made one of the best roguelites there is, debatably of course. It's a Metroidvania style roguelite, and I was excited to see what their next entry would be, their baby, their child. And like I said, I wasn't very disappointed when it came to action, so let's talk about that first. The game is a top-down action roguelike compared to their Metroidvania style one, but still shares a lot of the same elements that the original did. This game shares the same weapon and equipment layout that one did, which means you have 2 primaries and 2 equipment slots, and then some sort of an ultimate ability. I don't know if Dead Cells had that. I can't remember quite off the top of my head, but I don't think so. A potion that you can upgrade further and further to get more and more uses out of it. And, I mean, that's where the similarities kind of end, right? Besides that, there's not a ton. There's no parry mechanic that I've found yet. There could be a weapon that has it that isn't out, or I never unlocked during my play. But I will say, I've fully completed this game, and I guess that's one of the gripes I had, is I fully completed this game extremely quickly. It's early access. That's something that you must know. It's not fully out. It's like, I'd compare it to Hades, where in Hades, in the original and in the second game, it released in early access to very little content, and then over the years, it got more and more to where it was a full complete game, and I think that's what this game's also shooting for, which is fine. I don't think that's a big negative, but we have to talk about the current state of it now and not the state of it later, because if you talk about later, well, you're buying a game now, not later, right? And so that's kind of the big thing with this one. And like I said, the action's great. It feels good. They added a new mechanic called the alternate attacks, where after you've done your combo string with whatever weapon you're using, and you use your next weapon, your other weapon, it does a alternate attack, which is typically like a super attack that you're invincible during, which is cool. It's a super cool mechanic. I think it makes for a fun way to play the game, right? In a hectic game where you get some invincibility and you do some big damage is always pretty fun. I also feel like you can cheese it a little bit, which I find a combo that's really good, which is the crossbow and staff. Every second shot of the crossbow, if you hit the perfect shot, you can use your alternate attack. That means if you get the timing down, which I mean, it's not too difficult to get the timing on that, you can eventually just straight up permanently almost be invincible. I mean, you're not permanently invincible, but I mean, you're really fucking tough to kill for sure. It's a really strong combo that I found pretty early on into the game. Next, I want to talk about the co-op itself. It feels good, and I mean, I was playing with someone who wasn't great with the ping. I was hosting. I don't know if this game has player-to-player hosting or not. I think it runs off Steam servers. Not certain. That's how you invite people through, so it could be. But it was good. It was smooth. We only had a couple hiccups here and there, and it was just, like I said, the one guy that had really bad internet. But honestly, it was super fun. One thing, it's kind of difficult to read what your teammates are doing because everyone's dashing around really quickly. It seems like they kind of cut back on teammate animations a lot. So your teammates kind of don't do anything, it looks like. I mean, they like kind of stutter when they attack. It's something really odd. You know, they don't make any of the VFX, which makes sense. There'd be way too many VFX going on at the time if they did. But it was just something I noticed, not a gripe that I have with the game. It was just something that I could see the game having. Besides that, the co-op's great. You share, you don't share money, but you can donate in a way to make it to where if something's 300 and you only have 150, you can put your 150 in, and then your teammate can also chip in the 150. It makes the game a lot more co-op-like. Same goes for any door you can purchase, if it costs life or not. It's a really good idea, and it really makes sense for the game. Next is weapon variety. For early access, the game has plenty of weapons, but it does the Dead Cells way of unlocking weapons, which I don't think I'm against, but I am against kind of how they do it. In Dead Cells, what happens is when you kill an enemy, each enemy has their own blueprint they normally drop, and this game kind of does the same thing if I'm not mistaken. Each enemy has their own little blueprint that they drop that you can unlock weapons and various items to help in your journey. Equipment, items, anything of the sort. You unlock those by getting this dust currency. Wouldn't be a problem if I was the only currency. See, there's 2 others, at the very least, that also unlock equipment and weapons. Which, I don't know why they couldn't just go for 1 currency like they did in Dead Cells. Like, Dead Cells, it makes more sense to me why you have 1 currency. But in this game, there's 4 different kinds of currencies. There's also cogs. And what cogs do is they enhance your character. They give you your enhanced things like your flask or your other abilities. It's just permanent buffs that are not like run dependent kind of deals that you pick up, which is fine. I typically don't like to have like 4 different currencies. Personally, I just don't see why it needs to be there, but not a really big gripe, not something I'm gonna like ding against the game or at all. It's just something I prefer, right? One other thing I'd like to mention about the gameplay is there's these boons and then there's gifts. Boons are permanent things you get in the run that increase your attack damage, your critical damage, your attack speed, your health, and like money gaining and maybe a couple other things. But they're permanent things you typically get at the end of a mini boss or an end of an area. They're good. I like them. I think they're a really good addition to the game, something to make your run more powerful throughout, kind of like how Dead Cells had the scrolls that had like the attack, health, and tactical, I think is what they called it. In this game, that's how they run it, right? And then there's gifts. Gifts are a really good idea. They're this way's game of making like run diversity besides your weapons. While I really like them, I wish they kind of did them differently. I don't know how they would do them completely differently from what they have, but right now you can have 3 gifts and you can increase that later with upgrading your character, right? They're cool. So some of them are if you do fire damage and it has, let's say, per 5 stacked fire damage, you do 10%, your team does 10% extra damage. It's a cool boon. It helps the whole team out, or gift, I should say. It helps the whole team out, and it's a really neat one. And there's a couple others, like the best one, in my opinion, which is, I think it's called Vampirism or something like that, where every time you kill an enemy, you get 4% of your health back. Really fucking good. Really stupid busted, in my opinion. By far the best gift there is. I just wish there was a way they could tie these into having infinite. Something like the Binding of Isaac. That's what makes the Binding of Isaac special, in my opinion, is the run diversity that you can get just from the items you pick up. In this game, I don't know if I feel that quite, right? Each weapon feels the same no matter where you pick it up and what synergies you have with it. At least in the short amount of time that I played it, right? I hope they can change that in some way. I don't know the best way to change that. Like I said, the boosts are really good. They make sense. They do what they're supposed to do. They give you damage. They give you attack speed to a certain amount. They're great. But the gifts are kind of hit or miss. They're either really good or really shitty. Like the abundance one where you get 20% more cogs looted. I don't think that's very good. That should be just something you could just get normally without taking a whole gift slot, right? I to see the gifts reworked. I don't exactly know how they would do it, but I would personally like to see it. I think they're a really good idea. They make sense for the game. It's either that or make you be able to get more gifts and make them weaker overall, or make them do more and you get less of them in terms of like throughout the run. You get like 1 in area instead of, you can get 3 in 1 area. Something of the sort. It'd make the game a lot more fun, in my opinion. Now we're on towards the end of this little review. Honestly, like, there's not a ton to go over, right? Talk about my biggest issue that I had with the game, and that's the time it takes to beat it. This game is extremely short when it comes to content, and I mean like actual content to play through. There's 4 zones total. You play through 3 in a run. And there's 2 main bosses. If I'm not mistaken, there could have been 3, but I'm positive, pretty positive there was only 2 main bosses. The bosses feel great. They're super cool, they're super fun, and honestly, I really like their designs on them. The final boss, I'm not going to spoil what it is it was a kind of a letdown. We kind of shit on it, which is surprising because the first boss we struggled the shit out of. The first boss is extremely difficult compared, in my opinion, compared to the final boss, which is weird. Dead Cells had a really good thing to where their bosses gotten way more increasingly difficult. Like the first one was pretty easy, the second one was much harder, and then the third one was way harder than that one, in my experience, right? With I had with Dead Cells. This game also does a really weird mechanic when it comes to fighting, and it only really comes up, in my opinion, during boss fights, because dying to normal enemies is going to be relatively difficult. We did once, I think, but how this game death system works, when a player dies, you don't just like hover over a player and they revive. Which is fine. It's a roguelike, right? You don't want the game to be too easy by reviving. But this game does what Dead Cells does when you go through get a curse. You have 10 enemies you need to kill, and if you don't kill 10 enemies and you get hit before then, you die instantly. They call it sudden death or something like that in this game. I like it and I don't at the same time. I like it because it's a fun mechanic to play against, and I think the difficulty is really fun with it. But I can see it being an issue with people that are playing casually or with someone who's not very good, right? It'd be really hard if you're playing with someone who's like really shitty at roguelites and they die really early on in a boss fight, and you're just gonna have to pure clutch it up, not take any damage at all, or you will suddenly die. Especially during a boss where there may be 1 or 2 minions. That's it, right? Like I said, the sudden death is super cool. I think it's a really neat mechanic. I just worry for the casual player base on it. For me though, not a big deal. I enjoyed it. I think other people might not. Besides that, I beat this game in 5 runs. All the enemies were super different. I enjoyed it, but being a game within 5 runs and feeling like I've fully done everything there is to do, besides unlock a couple weapons, kind of felt disheartening. I don't think I'm an extremely good roguelike player, and I have a friend who is, who I'm playing with, but even then he didn't really carry us. We just all kind of progressively won the game really early on. I've been seeing a lot of people in reviews have also been beating the game within 5 to 10 runs, and it only took us 2 hours and 40 minutes to fully beat the game, and that's with dicking around, right? Do I recommend the game? Is it right as it is right now? Well, as of right now, it is on sale for $20, normally $25. Me personally, I bought the game because no matter what, I was gonna get it and I was gonna play it. And I think that's because I'm a roguelite slut when it comes to games like these. But for an average person that doesn't play roguelites a ton and they want to play a game with their friends for a while, I don't think I can recommend this game. Just for the fact there's not a ton of content right now. But if you're okay playing through a game that has limited content and then coming back to it like a year or 2 later, this will be a game for you. I honestly believe it has the juice to be good. It's super fun. I enjoy it. And I'm going to give it a 6 for now. My scale's really simple. 1 means it's the worst game that's ever existed. 10 means it's the best game that's ever existed. And a 5 means it's a completely average game. Anything below a 5, a 4, just a below average game. A 6, an above average game, so on and so forth, right? I think this is above average game, and it's a genre. I rank by genre because every game's genre has their own different player base. And in my opinion, this game is above average for its genre for right now. I think once it gets more content, it could easily become an 8 or a 9. It just needs more of that sauce that Dead Cells was cooking with. But when they get there, and I believe this game will be a masterpiece of its time when it does. Anyway, that was my personal opinion on Windblown. If you didn't like my personal opinion, tell me. Well, what's your personal opinion on the game? And hey, I'll probably read it, comment on it, and we can talk about it. And if there's enough of it, I'll talk about it in a video. But hey, if you like the video, like it, subscribe, and as always, have yourself a wonderful day. Bye-bye.